Hello there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're watching live or you are watching on replay, you are so welcome. Thank you for joining us here on this episode of the Creators Checkup, say episode or live stream, whatever you want to call it. This is where we help you to solve specific issues that relate to your unique creator lifestyle, and we help you to become the creator that you were created to be. My name is Alan C. Paul. If you're new to us, thank you so much for joining us. This is really, really a pleasure. Every Friday, we try to do this at 1 p.m. Eastern. We know some people can't jump in right away, but we try to honor your time and make sure that you always get some value out of these live streams. We share about being faith focused creators. Today, we're going to be talking about dealing with a whole label of being a Christian artist, a Christian creator, and whether or not that boxes you in, whether or not you need to declare your faith through making sure that that's always a part of your presentation, of your label, of your explanation and bio, just whether that really makes a difference in terms of what you share and what you believe. And that's super important. We're going to kind of jump into some hot topics when it comes to that. And we also do some other things related to our creative community. So I'm going to jump in right away and make sure I get to my notes. Let me do my share screen here, make sure everything is working technically. Hopefully, you all can hear me. That's always the other concern, which I want to make sure that you can also comment and we can pop up your things on screen. Let me do that real quick so you can see how that looks. And let's see here. So you can see that I can always put your comments and things like that up on screen so that if you are sharing with us during this live stream, we can actually pop that up. Now, of course, afterward, if you're watching on replay, just put it in the comments because I will go back and I will ask, hey, is there any comments, any more questions, something that I didn't cover, or maybe even you watch it live and you're like, oh, wait, I didn't get a chance to share that. Put it in the comments. It helps our algorithms. Truly, it does help us when people share after the fact because it turns this live stream into a more evergreen piece of content on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And we try to go live on those two platforms because they both allow the live stream to stay so that if someone doesn't catch this live and they say, hey, what did they talk about on January 30th of 2026? I wanted to catch that discussion about Andy Mineo and Christian artists. I wanted to get into that and I wasn't able to join. So your comments actually help YouTube and LinkedIn to surface this. And so if someone types in comment or types in a search term that we talked about, it can still get out to them. Okay. So again, hoping everything is working out. Looks like our mics and everything is working. So I'm going to jump into our share and make sure we are staying on our agenda because as I just mentioned, I want to make sure that I honor your time. We have been going usually an hour, but now I'm starting to try to lean more into 45 minutes. Not because we can't talk for an hour, but I feel like that 45 minutes kind of like it's a sweet spot where we give everybody time to join, but we also don't just belabor the point or drag it on just to get to an hour. So we're playing around with that just to see what works best for us. Okay. Let's see now. Here we go. So, first, we're going to talk about, as I just mentioned, our news and notes, some of the things that are going on in our community. So, we're going to talk about what's happening in our January workshop, which we just had last night. Y'all, please, CRC members, gold creators, 360 creators, that's our membership. All of you that already have access, and those of you who want access, I want to talk about why that was such an amazing workshop and one that really is going to kind of like be like a cornerstone of our community of how we want to encourage everyone to read their Bible and connect with their faith. Then we're going to talk about what's lately happening on the podcast. Then today's vital signs is the actual comment and topic that I really want to get into. The comment that Andy Mineo, Christian rapper, well, I don't think he wants to be called a Christian rapper Andy Mineo shared on a local podcast or a recent podcast. The pastor that actually interviewed him is local to Miami, so I am aware of these people that are interviewing him. They're not at my church, but they're at a church that is in close to Miami, and so apparently they have a good relationship. They were sharing on this podcast, and Andy Mineo said some things which might impact the way you look at your own creative career and how you share it in terms of your label. And it does directly relate to God and gigs. Then we're going to get into lab work. That's when we share something that has to do with our actual day-to-day operations, organization, things like that, that actually help you continue your life. as a faith focused creator and your unique creator lifestyle. And today we're going to talk about something that I got cut off last week. Kind of made a huge mistake talking about mistakes and issues and dealing with, technical stuff and honestly just human error when I accidentally ended our live stream last week super early because I just hit end. I'm not going to do that this time. I promise. I'm looking closely at the red button and I won't hit the red button. It's like the do not touch button. And I just rushed it. And so I won't do that today. But we do want to talk about email because that was a point that I kind of got cut off, talking about how I'm getting organized and why something is, boring as email could make a big difference in your creator lifestyle and getting paid for what you do, getting organized, and staying on top of all the things that impact your life. Next, we'll talk about our consult. That's where we get to do a little back and forth and share. We're doing this in our creator community as well. We shared this question and got a lot of comments. What's a perfect creative world for you? I love this question because it's going to kind of like get you thinking, like, what do I really want? What would be a perfect creative world? And finally, we'll finish with our subscriptions or prescriptions, which today we are suggesting and always suggesting that you join our 360 Creator Resource Center, which is our entry tier into our creative community. As I just mentioned, our workshop last night with my friend here, Wendy Coop, was incredible because we asked her to come in and talk about boosting your Bible study skills. Now, here's why this workshop, which is now available inside the Creator Resource Center, it was so impactful because Wendy is a creator like us. She's got multiple YouTube channels. She has multiple ways that she serves the world as you see there, a writer and a tech geek, as a blessed Navy veteran, where we thank her for her service to our country. She's done it all, but yet she still manages to make Bible study a daily routine and discipline. And she was so absolutely on point with practical ways to make sure that you don't lose touch with your Bible, with your reading. And as I'm sharing even today, we never hide our Christian connection in God and Gigs. It's where we start, it's where everything flows from. And that's why I wanted to make sure that this was a part of our first January Creator Expert Workshop for 2026. That's where it is now. So if you missed it, you can still get access. All you have to do is go to godandgeeks.com/membership and you can get access through the Creator Resource Center or the Gold program, either one. But that will give you access to this so you can watch it. It was an incredible session. She broke down what to read, when to read it, how to read, Bible study tools. We even have a little contest inside where we'll give away some materials if you comment inside the community. Hey, there's a hint there. So if you didn't watch it inside the community, you might want to go check it out. You could win some prizes even if you didn't catch it live. Okay. So I highly suggest you go check that out. It was such a blessing. Thank you, Wendy, for being our first creator expert of 2026. Now, lately on the podcast, we had our discussion about when your creator career feels stuck. We took this from the last live stream that we did. So if you remember this topic, this was something that we were able to get in before we had that unfortunate technical issue. And so we really got into the details of when to pivot, how to pivot, should you pivot away from what you think is kind of working, but not working well enough. And I was very transparent on how that's working in terms of guiding gigs. And we'll even get into that a little bit today when we talk about our label. Why do we label ourselves? Should we label ourselves? So we're going to get into that a little bit. But that is what was on the podcast for episode 371. All you got to do to get there is go to godandgigs.com/371. Or since you're already watching, simply go back one video, go back one step. And LinkedIn as well, of course, you can go to godandgigs.com/371. And on any app, you'll be able to find our latest podcast. And I just want to do a quick note. This is again one of those cool things. We do rank in the podcast apps if you type in the word Christian creator, which is again where we're going to get into kind of like this whole labeling thing and why it feels so strange to talk about labels when sometimes it actually helps you. So, our U version plans, I always want to bring this up. If you have not seen one of our U version plans, you can always find them at godandgigs.com/U version. We're going to be working on getting some of these new versions or new reading plans out as soon as possible. I hope that we'll have at least two or three more in the beginning of the year, and then I'll be focusing on the writing our new book. So that's going to be kind of like a back and forth where I'll try to get new materials out, but it depends on how the flow is. But I would love for you to share one of those plans if you've already read them with somebody else. And if you haven't, please go ahead and check it out. Uversion.com goes right along with our Bible study focus for January. Want to welcome all of our 360 community members, our creators, those of you who are joining us live or on replay. You guys are so important to us. We love having you. And if you are new to this community, I also want to make sure that we welcome our newest creator who is new to our community, Ray Robertson Jr. Thank you so much, man. You took the invitation, you were willing to check it out, you joined. So now we have him in our Creator Resource Center. He's a drummer, as you can see, a percussionist, just a great, great individual and an artist and a really like some one of those strong community members in our South Florida area. So I am so blessed that he decided to also join us in 360. If you want to join Ray and all the other creators, you can do so simply by going through two tiers, either Creator Resource Center, which is our entry level. You get access to the workshops that I just mentioned, all of our apps, threads, and that includes for YouTubers, that includes for musicians, that includes for visual artists, all of those individual places where you can connect with people like you who have a faith focused background, but also create all over the realm of the arts and content creation and entertainment space. You can join us in the Creator Resource Center, and that gives you access to all recorded things. And the Gold Mastermind membership gives you access to live coaching and that kind of mastermind level connection. So that's where you can get into that. Thankful for all these friends who have said nice things about us. And this kind of proves my point that the community is based on people who are really, really sharing their lives, sharing their unique creator lifestyles. And that's how they're growing, whether they are full time, part time, whether this is a passion for them, whether this is a full time living for them. This is where all of you are welcome. All right, we have now gotten to our vital signs. So let me see. I've been getting better at this. So you guys give me half a second. I'm going to jump out of this. And I've been trying to use Riverside a lot more effectively. So eventually I'm gonna get really good at this, but not quite there yet in terms of doing these back and forth. So let me see if I can do this right. Because this actually, as I do this, this actually helps me mark where the vital sign starts. So when I go back later to clip this for the podcast and I clip this for the other sections by me doing this little stinger, it reminds me, oh, here's where we started exactly to talk about the new thing. So if you guys wonder why does he keep going back and forth with the different production elements, that's actually why I do it. All right, so here we go. All right, now we are ready for our vital signs. And what we're talking about is a viral clip from rapper Andy Mineo on why he no longer wants to be called a Christian artist. Now, this is such a hot topic, not just in our community, but it's a hot topic for pretty much anyone in the Christian community, the Christian, I guess you could say, not just content creators, but pretty much anyone who is of faith and who believes that we should be shining a light into the world. And of course, as God and Gigs is basically a membership, a platform all about connecting your faith with your creativity. It's impossible for us to ignore this issue. It's impossible for me to go by a clip that talks about whether you should call yourself a Christian artist and not stop and say, wait a minute, this is exactly why we exist, because we are artists, me starting with myself, who believes in God, loves Jesus, but doesn't necessarily create Christian art that would be labeled as such. And basically, this was why our entire platform was created. It was because we needed to help people navigate never sacrificing their values, never sacrificing their faith, and creating in the mainstream arts and entertainment space, but never also feeling like they were limited by that fact of, well, I'm a Christian artist. So what does that mean in terms of what I create? Do I need to tell everybody I'm a Christian artist before I start? Is this some kind of like mandate on us? And so that's why now I'm going to come out of this and we're going to actually play a little bit of this clip. Give me a little bit of seconds because I did save it, but I may not have put it where I thought I did. Oh, yes, good. I saved it. So give me half a second because I have to pause it and make sure that the audio is shared. So give me a half a second to make sure that you guys can see it and hear it. This will be the technical part that I will have to take out, but I think it's ready. And it says tab audio. So you guys let me know if you can hear and see this. Once I start it, I may have to start it over again. But here is Andy Mineo talking with Pastor Rich Wilkerson about why he does not want to be called a Christian artist. So let's listen in and let's talk about this as we hear this clip.
I've actually tried to shed the label Christian artist, and I think a lot of people are upset about that because they think somehow I am like trying to deny Jesus. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just trying to not directly connect my monetary value to being a Christian. I want to follow Jesus. I don't want to monetize him. That's really what I'm trying to do. Like if I'm an artist, right, and I'm making a song and I'm like, all right, oh, but people think I'm this thing. So let me just insert some uninspired information about Jesus in here so I can quell their expectation. I'm like, now I'm not being a good artist, and I'm also not even being like honest. So if you ever hear me talk about Jesus in my music, it's because I actually am having a serious, sincere moment. This is the weirdness of that intersection. You get what I'm saying?
Of course. I think you're saying it really, really well.
So if I remove that title, now like I'm just get to be an artist who is also a Christian. And when you hear me talk about this or that or marriage or life, whatever, it's all coming from me and that's why I was saying earlier, being a Christian isn't my entire personality. It's part of who I am.
Yep.
And it informs that, but I'm not going to package it up every single time I do something in order to appease an audience because I'm not a product. I'm a person. This is why I've actually.
All right. Okay. Wow. 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 All right. So much to unpack here. And once again, I hope that that got shared correctly and that you were able to hear Andy talking there. So let's jump into this discussion and take apart piece by piece what he was sharing. And I might have to go back to that clip a little bit just to make sure that I catch each line that he shares so that we can kind of talk about how that impacts you as again, you'll hear me use this term, faith focused artist, a faith centered artist. Notice I didn't even use Christian in that terminology. And here's why I feel number one, we should give Andy a lot of credit for broaching this subject, right? Here's the first problem or first issue that he brought up. And if I remember correctly, and I'm going to go back and even again, like I said, listen to it one more time because I've watched it like 3 or 4 times. But he talks about how the tension is he doesn't want to simply put Jesus into his music. If you know, Andy Mineo is very, very, very connected to the Christian hip hop movement of the early 2000s, and really just with a lot of other people like Cross Movement and Lecrae, and I think it was 116 Crew. These are groups I used to grow up with, and I used to listen to, and I was like, oh, thank goodness there's Christian rap. There's people who, do hip hop, but I don't have to feel icky when I listen to it. So I was one of those people that was really like thankful for a Christian artist who was presenting unadulterated gospel, unadulterated. This is only for believers. This is for people who want to hear words that connect with God, right? And of course, as you guys probably know, I'm also a worship musician. So everything I play in church is explicitly for the church. But now here's the situation I think we're getting into. I'm now not just a church musician and I'm not just a worship musician. I'm also a musician, and we are here in God and Gigs where all of you most likely are working outside of a church. This is not your only thing where ministry and Christian work and Christian content is not the only thing you do. It may not be anything in terms of you creating Christian content or Christian rap or Christian music or Christian art. So let's talk about that tension he mentioned about packaging Jesus, putting Jesus into a song just to appease a certain crowd. In this interview, if you listen to the whole interview, and I did listen to the entire part where he talks about whether or not people should be labeled as Christian artists. He said at the beginning that the reason he felt that kind of pressure was because number one, all of his music sometimes went into not necessarily non-Christian things, but very sensitive topics, adult-ish topics that the Bible talks about, but that were not okay for kids. So let's talk about that. I've heard this many times on some of these radio programs, right? You'll see a radio program where they'll say positive, good for the whole family. And that's kind of like a catchphrase which basically is telling everybody this is a Christian station and we're not going to play any objectionable content. But as Andy Mineo says in this episode, if you watch the whole episode, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Also, he shares that, which something we all know if you've read the Bible at all, going back to our Bible study workshop with Wendy Coop the other day. The fact is that the Bible carries a lot of sensitive, tough, adult, and really not appropriate for children themes. So even if you were to use the Christian artist or the Christian label, that does not mean that everything that you share in a biblical area, just look at church. There's a reason why we have children's church and we have adults in the other sanctuary because sometimes the adults are talking about things that children should not be exposed to. And that's inside a Christian environment. So I do feel that he is right when he says if I use the term Christian artist to some people, unfortunately, it now implies that he only deals with certain topics that are safe. And for us as artists to respond to audience and say, well, I don't want you to deal with certain topics because if you call yourself Christian, you can't deal with certain topics. Well, now we have a disconnect between what the name Christian means. So I don't believe that as artists, we should hide behind the label of Christian to avoid certain topics. And thereby, the same way, we should not allow the term Christian artist to keep us from dealing with certain topics. And again, this is specifically talking about the way people relate to that term. And so people who are immediately jumping on Andy Mineo and other people who have said, I don't want to be a Christian artist, sometimes I think assume that what they are saying, and Andy says this in that clip, that they think they are denying the faith, when in fact it might be closer to what Paul says in Corinthians, which is when he's in front of certain people, he does things that a lot of people would not agree with because he either ate food that was not, you know, blessed, or maybe it was offered to pagans or whatever. And he knows in his heart, he's not disobeying any laws. He knows where it comes from. But people who are weak in the faith around him were judging him. And so I'm not throwing any kind of shade at anyone who feels that Christian artist needs to be on your label. But I think there's a nuance to this that a lot of people miss and that he was trying to bring out that perhaps we need to be considerate of, especially as I mentioned in God and Gigs. Now, I'm going to go back a little bit because I do want to listen to this next section again. So forgive me if there's a little bit of pause here where I bring that screen back up. And I want to get into the second thing he says, which was something along the lines of about monetizing Jesus. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Give me a second if I can find it.
I don't want to monetize him.
Mm.
That's really what I'm trying to do. Monetary value to being a Christian. I want to follow Jesus. I don't want to monetize him.
Mm.
That's really what I'm trying to do. Like if I'm an artist, right, and I'm making a song and I'm like, all right, oh, but people think I'm this thing. So let me just insert some uninspired information about Jesus in here.
Okay, let's stop there. Uninspired. That really caught me there when he said that. So he's basically saying in a way that, well, if I am trying to appease an audience to be a Christian artist, and so basically all I'm going to do is throw in some churchese, some Christianese to make sure that it passes the test. Now we're talking about authenticity as an artist. And I have a back and forth on this because the fact that he said uninspired is kind of where I think it got a little bit on the edge of, well, this is kind of like a assumption that it's a cop out to put Christian ease into a song. And I would say this is kind of where I go with people who say Christian art is often inferior. He's right that if you are simply just throwing in cliches of any kind, cliches about love, cliches about Christianity, cliches about anything where it is uninspired, and that's the word, then it's just bad art, period. It doesn't matter whether it's Christian or anything else. Anytime you are simply just pandering, I think we all recognize it as pandering in art. We recognize musical pandering. Hopefully, we do. I mean, all the pop artists would probably say no, they don't because they make millions of dollars doing the same thing over and over again. But pandering to a certain audience, I think, is a problem no matter what you are doing as an artist. And being authentic as an artist means that you are not willing to sacrifice that and just do anything to get along with the people who are looking for a certain kind of music, a certain kind of message. Again, I think the problem is that in the Christian world, we are oftentimes simply saying, based on the words you said and based on your label, do they match? And the reason that many of us, including myself, have been careful not to always use Christian creator is because there is immediately a distinction of, well, if you're creating and you're using this label, I would say the same thing for jazz. I would say the same thing for blues, anything. They get into their head, this is what it should sound like. If I say I am a jazz artist, there are many people who would say, okay, jazz means you're playing Louis Armstrong, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you're playing the standards. And then there's other people who would hear jazz and they would say, oh, well, that means you're playing something like Robert Glasper, you're playing stuff by Kamisi Washington. Like I'm, they have two different forms of jazz. So the label immediately puts something in their head where I don't even want to say jazz all the times because I don't want them to assume that this is what you're about to hear. And then to this point about monetizing Jesus. And again, this is where the pandering comes in. There is very, very clearly a Christian music industry. And that's the scary part that, yes, people are paid to minister, to make Christian music. And they're paid because they're good at it. And they're paid because there is an industry and a product that is sold and a product that is created. I myself benefit from parts of people who are looking for the church, looking for Christian content on a Sunday, and I'm paid for that, creating podcasts and things like that. So the war is never just about Christianity. The war is, am I going to be authentic to what God has put in my heart to share, even if it doesn't make everybody happy and it's only for certain people? And here's where it comes to God and gigs. I have many times not used the words Christian creator, even as I promoted God in gigs. And you might say, wait, why is that? It's clearly, you write about being a church musician. Clearly, you care that people should know God and you put it in your book and you have devotionals. And so your work is pretty much explicitly Christian. And I would say, well, from a perspective of where I come from, yes. But in terms of labeling it, I've been very careful up until basically the last 2 or 3 months of even putting the word Christian creator in my documentations and in my bylines and so on. And the reason I did it was, in a sense, you might call it pandering. It's because as I looked at the podcast charts, I realized that there aren't a lot of podcasts anymore that say the word Christian creator. And maybe somebody is looking for materials like mine, but they won't find it because I didn't use the word Christian in it. Because I wanted people to realize that I am not just here for Christians. We're here for anyone where these principles will help you to become the creator that you were created to be. And maybe the word Christian scares you away because you think we won't deal with certain topics. You think we won't deal with mental health. You think we won't deal with issues in the church. You think we won't deal with issues outside the church. You think that this kind of keeps us in a box. And that's why I didn't want to use that term, Christian creator, for that very reason. But at the same time, I was leaving out possibly people who would never find our podcast because they were looking for Christians who create. And so you see why this label issue, this dilemma of, well, I don't want people to think this or I don't want people to think that, actually limits us in so many ways beyond just what we share on our creative work. It's actually our mindset that we have to be very clear of who we're trying to reach and why. Does the label help you reach the people you're trying to reach? Then use it. If the label keeps you from reaching the people that you're trying to reach, or it keeps you from being authentic in your work, as long as you are not dismissing your own faith, I don't see how people can be so upset. as I saw somebody commenting on this very same clip, and I'll pull this clip up because I see we have some live viewers. We're talking about Andy Mineo's comments about being a Christian artist. I'm going to pull this back up. Give me half a second because I just want to make sure you guys can find it. And again, I will make a link to this in the show notes so that you guys can watch it later. I cannot seem to share just now. Give me a half a second. There we go. Thank you guys for being patient on the live stream as I pull this back up because I have to go all over the place. I don't have as many tabs as I want, so I can hide things. So we're talking about this clip, and I'm going to go ahead a little bit further from this point. Let's talk about the last thing that he says. So he talks about monetizing Jesus. He talks about whether he can be authentic as an artist. And then this last part here, it will go right after the uninspired
I can quell their expectation. I'm like, now I'm not being a good artist, and I'm also not even being like honest. So if you ever hear me talk about Jesus in my music, it's because I actually am having a serious, sincere moment. This is the weirdness of that intersection. You get what I'm saying?
Of course. I think you're saying it really well.
So if I remove that title, now like I'm just get to be an artist who is also a Christian. And when you hear me,
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I get to be an artist. I get to be an artist. And I think, again, this is where the struggle is. And good to see you, LaShonda. So awesome. I love this. Does the label add clarity, then add it? Yes. Thank you for sharing that because it's exactly what we're trying to get a handle on. Clarity is not just a clarity toward the audience. I think what Andy Mineo is talking about here is clarity in his own life, his own mission. He's already, to be straight up with you, he's already created so much music which clearly states who he is. So for people who say once you take the label off that somehow like he's denying his faith, he would have to take all of his music down. Like he would have to literally erase all of his music if that was like, oh, I don't want to be known as this. And there have been the deconstructionists, there have been these artists who have given up entirely. I'll give you a great example right now since we're kind of riffing a little and sharing our honest feelings. Michael Gunger, who used to work with Israel and was he was at our church a couple of times and performed. He was a massive influence in the church world. I still have one of his worship songs, or many of his worship songs, but one specifically that's inside my playlist of like my just soaking music when I just want to listen. Now, he basically left Christianity, or at least Orthodox Christianity. I think he went to more like a, not to get too deep into the weeds, but like a universalist kind of like, hey, God's whoever I want it to be. He went into that and he kind of left the Christian faith. Did I suddenly stop listening to his music? No, there was still truth in it. There was still, when he wrote that song, God used it to reach people, to reach me, to speak of his goodness. And I didn't blame his lack of authenticity at that time, even though later he would say that's not what he really believes. And so, if I'm not going to throw out Gunger's music at the end of the day because he decided to leave the faith, then why would I throw out Andy Mineo's faith because he decides to change his label to make sure he can be authentic as an artist? Again, God and Gigs is for creators, period. It just so happens that most of us are Christians who believe certain things and want to share our values and stay with our values. And I've been adding the label to help us find more people like that. And I keep adding Christian back in because podcast SEO says, hey, people type in 2 or 3 keywords. And if they type in creator, they're going to find 7 zillion podcasts. If they type in Christian creator, they will only find maybe 50. And that was my understanding. Like, okay, in this case, the label does help me at least reach people, but I would be very, very sad if somebody saw the Christian creator label and said, well, I guess he doesn't want to, have anybody that doesn't do church music or doesn't do worship music or doesn't do that. I guess if I'm not doing a TikTok that has 100%, Christian art or Christian themes, I guess he doesn't want God and Gigs. God and Gigs can help me. That's the fear. The fear is not in being rejected or being denying my faith. It's being missed and people misconstruing what that label means because of what they think it means. And so I think, again, artists, this is literally where we live. Creators in the God and Gigs community, 99% of us do not specifically create Christian content all the time. We are Christians working in the world, but not of the world. And so Lashanda's being here is a great example of that, where she's never apologetic. She's never apologizing about her faith, but she doesn't have to lead with it because it's who she is. And when she puts a picture up of the Bible, she's reading her Bible, or she shares with her community, I know exactly where she's coming from. I know who she is as a believer. And for 99% of the believers who are feeling this tension, sometimes I feel like we are actually pushing ourselves too hard. Like, don't be so concerned about the label. Be more concerned about who you are and what you're called to create. And then, as LaShonda said again, I'm going to pull this up because this is a perfect way to say it, LaShonda. Does the label add clarity? Then add it. If it adds clarity to your mission, and does it help other people be clear about what you are sharing, then perhaps the label is help effective. But if it's just to be an artist, God made you a person first. He didn't make you an artist first, and he certainly didn't make you a Christian artist first. And unless you are in the ministry, and like me, again, I toe this line very carefully. I am in the ministry and I do serve in the worship and I do work in the church world. And yet I am more than that. There's one thing he said at the end of this podcast where, again, it kind of sounded like he was kind of dissing, but he's like, it's not my whole personality. Now, being a Christian encompasses everything I am, but it certainly doesn't work as a label if you talk about me and my love of certain, people do not understand all the time, give all to the glory of God, because they don't see how certain things like, I don't know, being a radio enthusiast, does that give glory to God? Does, being a fisherman, does that give glory to God? And sometimes that just doesn't work to say I'm a Christian fisherman or I'm a Christian, because just because it informs who you are doesn't mean it explains it well. Does that make sense? If being an artist, Christian artist, doesn't explain what I do well. And so the label does, and I would be straight up with you. Let's look at the disciples. The word Christian was not even applied to the disciples. It was a relatively new word. It only appears once in the entire Bible. So, however the label makes our culture feel, it is much more important that you are authentic to who you are and your beliefs versus what you call yourself. And the Bible says, they shall be known by their fruits. What you create and how you create it and how you interact with people is the first and the most important indication of who you serve, not what you call yourself. So, all kudos out to Andy Mineo and all of us as creators. Let's lead by our fruits, not worrying so much about the label that we place on ourselves or that other people place on our creative life. I love this, Lashonda. Lashonda says, just be who you are. Love it. This is exactly what we're talking about. I'm so glad I brought this up. This was a great topic to discuss. And I would love for us to continue it inside the God and Gigs membership. Remember, that's where we can have these conversations more than just on Fridays. But I want to keep it moving because this is so much good stuff happening. But I want to make sure we get to the next topic. So let's jump into our lab work. All right. Now, we're going to get into our lab work because the lab work got cut off last week. I was supposed to share about this, and then I hit the off button, the leave button, and unfortunately, we ended up with no discussion on this. So I'm going to try this again. Hopefully, I'll get it right this time, and I will not end our live stream with no with no warning. That was kind of really, really, really disconcerting. I promise I'm hiding that button from myself right now so I don't hit it. Okay. So getting organized as a creator. So here's the issue. Many of us, as us artists and creators, we immediately think, okay, well, being organized is not my strong suit. I'm out there. I'm creative. I think it's right brain, not left brain. Right, left brain is the more organized. Right, so I'm right brained, and getting organized is just not my thing. And especially dealing with paperwork, dealing with email, dealing with contracts, and with all this stuff, it's just not my thing, and I don't want to deal with it. And it's why I'm a creative, because I like to deal with the arts and not the paperwork. But let me just be straight up with you. It's super important that you deal with organizing because this impacts how you're able to work more efficiently and effectively in your creative life. And I have seen this way too many times, whether it's almost missing a gig, missing a performance, not knowing what to wear for a performance, not realizing that somebody reached out for a podcast interview or speaking opportunity, or just the simple details of life as a creator, which depend on me staying organized, which means I cannot let, the ideas of ADD, ADHD. We actually have an episode on ADHD with one of our a coach on ADHD, on creativity. Go check that one out. I have to go look up that number to go check out our episode with, I believe her name is Cindy, Coach Cindy. That was a great episode. And it talks about, hey, you have to work with your spirit, work with your ability, your mindset as a creator to be able to stay organized. But I'm going to show you a couple of tools that have been very, very effective in this. And one of those is one that our friend Lashonda is very familiar with. But I decided this year I was going to give it a shot. I was not willing to give it a shot before because I felt like I am just not good at this. It's always going to be an issue. But one of my biggest problems was email, staying on the email. So I have to put up this one comment because it is so blessing to see this beautiful young lady in my inbox, as it were. Hello, Micalia P., also known as Leah Paul, also known as my wife. Good to have you here. That makes me feel great. And so she will also be immediately amening everything I share since she just happened to come in on the organization. Great. This may be a little worse than I thought for her to comment on this section. But yes, my wife is an inbox cleaning, keeping it all organized person. I am the opposite. So when it came to email, I was struggling mightily when it came to me keeping up, and this is the big part, with actual creative work that I needed to work on. Gigs, things that were commented in terms of, hey, I need you here, you need to be here. This is the performance, this is the contract information. So much of that, literally for my show I just did for Martin Luther King, had like a whole train of emails that was going to the wrong email address because I hadn't updated this lady on which email I was using. So I had to go back to the other email account that had not been active. And so this stuff all over the place. I didn't know what the set list was. I couldn't find it. She had sent music that I could not practice. I mean, it was a mess. And this is a perfect example of how the organization of my life, in terms of my work, my paperwork, affected my ability to be creative. I couldn't even really work on the music to be ready for this performance because it was sent in an email, which got buried. So, why would I be concerned in doing an email discussion in the middle of a creator checkup? Is because it directly impacts how you create. So, as I just mentioned, Lashonda had told me about this tool called SaneBox. And the first time I heard it, did click on her link and I did the 14-day trial. And I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. And I kind of just gave up on it. Well, that was my fault, not the tool's fault. I really didn't give it a chance. So the second time they reached out and they said, hey, would you be interested in checking it out? It's like, okay, it's the beginning of 2026. I've got billions and billions of emails that are unopened. I just had this situation with emails getting lost in the sauce. Let me go ahead and try it out. And let me tell you, my wife will be ecstatic to hear this, that at least in my the account that I'm talking about, like the actual account that I'm using, not my old account that got totally, overrun with spam. But at least in this account, I have gotten down to pretty much I think they call inbox zero. Now, I say that because you can tell I'm not even sure that I can say that honestly. But if I look right now, I can share this in a second. If I look right now at my Gmail, it says inbox is empty, unread. So everything is red. But what you'll see here, let me see if I can pull this up. Give me a half a second so y'all can see what used to be a mess is no longer a mess. And I can verify this. Let's make sure the audio is not being shared. All right. So now you are seeing my inbox. Now, do you see over here in the corner where there is a bunch of saying this, saying that? Okay. That was added by SaneBox. SaneBox added these. And so it allowed me, these numbers used to be in the thousands down here. All of these were 1,000 emails. And now you can see they're just down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, or 6. And what SaneBox is doing, it's training my inbox via AI of where to put this stuff. Now, I want to say this really quickly. It used to be that I tried to do this with all these other folders with filters, and Gmail does allow filters, right? Now, if I'm not going to scroll down so you can't see the mess that this is, but I used to have tons of filters and tons of rules. And that was kind of like where the problem was. I was trying to organize it and things were getting lost anyway. Meanwhile, if I just use SaneBox, it automatically was loading and helping me find these emails and being much more clear about where things belong. And I was be able to scan this and they send a digest each week. Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm going to try not to blush, but my wife says, I am proud of you. So I appreciate that. And I see Zelshanda saying SaneBox for the win. So, yes, this is what I'm talking about. I first had to learn to use this. I couldn't even really judge it correctly until I got into it. And so that really made the big difference. Let me see if I can stay here and I'll just give a quick look inside the digest. Can you guys still see that? So this is where I am using the digest right now and all these different tools to start to use this tool correctly. So I've been able to do the deep clean. That was the biggest one. The deep clean was huge because I had thousands and thousands and thousands of old emails just laying there. So going into the deep clean, getting rid of things from like years. And here's a quick tip that I did do. I did not get rid of all of the personal emails. This was getting rid of all that corporate spam stuff and things that I have newsletters I would never read. But I did keep some of the it was able to quickly find personal emails from someone that might be reached out to in 2023 or someone else or a customer or a lead. So that way, keeping that. Now, this is where this kind of gets a little bit into the hacky stuff. You'll love this, Lashonda. I also use a tool called Clay. Clay.earth keeps track of my emails in terms of threads. And if I pull up a person, it'll tell me when did I email that person last because it connects with my Clay account. Well, or connects my email account. So that way, by not clearing out all of the personal emails, I can say, oh, wait, this person popped up. When did I talk to them last? And it pulls up when I last emailed them. So I was able to deep clean all of the corporate emails, but keep the personal ones where if there was someone that Clay wanted to reference later, I could reference them in Clay, say, oh, hey, the last time we worked on a project was blank, 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 blank. Here's what I'm doing now. So it allows for that long tail kind of customer and client relationship without having all the clutter. So I hope that little hack helps people where you don't want to get rid of every single email. You just want to get rid of the ones that you don't need anymore. So yes, I started to use the digest here. I've been using the folders as I mentioned, and the trainings is the super cool one where you can train different things to go to. So as you see, I have some trained contacts there, domain filters. Certain these go to the black hole, so the black hole gets trashed after a week. And the subject filters, I can also do that. So again, was I sold at the beginning? No, I was like, oh, I don't know. But now I am absolutely saying, okay, this is worth it. So now you might ask, okay, why am I talking about this? Well, Lashonda is an affiliate, and now I am also an affiliate because I don't like to recommend things that I don't use. But once I'm using it and it actually works for me, I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that. So I will put a link in the show notes. But as you can see here, I can go ahead and put this in. I'm always typing something. I believe this link is working. Actually, Lashonda or Leah, you can check it and make sure this actually works. So let's see if it actually works. So you can see if that works. I do believe I have a link now to SaneBox I already set up in Pretty Links. So you guys can try this out for 14 days free like I did. Oh, it went away really fast. Let's do the timer a little bit longer. Let's do 20 seconds. So you might want to check this out and just see whether this works for you. It again, I am not big on email in terms of all the different things. I just said, hey, I got to get this under control. And now it is helping me get this under control. So if you want to try this out and see if you can also get your creator lifestyle more organized, that is the goal to get more organized as a creator. I would highly suggest SaneBox. And that's just one area. Now, I will try to each week take on another area that we can start to kind of get ourselves organized. So we won't stop with email, but this was definitely a great one to start with. All right. We are almost to the end. Let me quickly pull up one more little stinger and we're going to go into our consults. All right. So here we go. And we're going to go to our consult here. And this is what I love about this question. This question gets you thinking. So I would love to get your comments here since we have a couple of folks hanging out with us. And if you want to comment in the comment section afterward, please comment in the comment section after you watch this because we can continue this conversation. We'll continue it in God and Geeks 360 in our app. We'll continue it here in the YouTube or the LinkedIn comments. So we can keep this conversation going. You don't have to stop only because you're watching this after the fact. Okay. So, oh, thank you. Leah says that it works. That worked. Awesome. So that means I set it up correctly in my pretty links, and that affiliate is working. You always are welcome again, you guys, to follow any of the people that you find these links from. But if you do it through God and Gigs, it does help us support the channel. If you decide to buy from that channel, we get a small commission, and every little bit helps us to stay on this mission to help creators become the creators that they were created to be. Okay. So, in a perfect creative world, what would you have? I should even say, what would you have? Who would you be connected with? I would love to know in your own thought process. Again, you can leave a comment, or if you'd like to share now, if you're watching live, a perfect creative world. What does it look like for you? What's the thing that you would have in at your disposal? Let's do the Alice in Wonderland, do the Looking Glass. Let's do go through the wardrobe of C.S. Lewis. You name it, right? Whatever that perfect world looks like for you. And just imagine for a second what would be true in this perfect creative world. Now, we'll read some of the responses we got from God and Gigs. Let's see if I can grab this real quick. And I want to look at that question inside our membership. And maybe I'll even show you guys the responses we got to this poll because we do polls pretty much almost every day in the membership. There it is. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull this up real quick. Let me change the share and change it to our actual membership so you guys can get a glance inside the membership. All right, hopefully you can see that now. So it says in a perfect creative world, what I would have, this was from Simony who answered. So my answer right there, of course, hundreds of inspired creators sharing their experiences here in their community. Let's go to all comments so you can see a little better. There we go. So, oh, Anita said, my own creative space where others can come and create too. I love that. And she's been working on that. She is a 360 Gold creator. So we've been talking about how she can possibly very soon have her own space for her creative lifestyle and have a art studio where she can like just share. And she's already got amazing students. She's already got, but like it's like that's the next step is that perfect creative world, her own creative space that she can actually own. I put this hundreds of inspired creators sharing their experiences here in this community. That's my perfect creative world. And then Ray, one of our newest members, said the pleasure of knowing that I'm doing good with music as a healing tool in various communities. Ah, gosh, I love that thought. And I love how everybody that answered was thinking about other people. Nobody who answered this question said, oh, I just want $1 million, or I just want a brand deal, or I just want to be on tour with everybody. Like none of the people who answered this question said anything about their own goals as if it was just selfish. Everybody included somebody else. Now, that doesn't mean you can't answer and say, "Hey, I would love to have a bigger income," because it will help you serve more people, it'll help you grow your career. Maybe you would say something like, "Hey, I want to have a larger following because I know a larger following will help me again make more art. I would love to have the best of tools, cameras. I would love to have this particular tool, this particular thing that would help me create more effectively. Perfect creative world. Again, this is where I want you to share because again, this is our question kind of like for the week inside 360. And so I want to share it with you guys. Of course, if you join Guiding Gigs 360 at guidinggigs.com/membership, you can answer the question right here inside our membership. So I would love for you to do so as well, obviously, um, here on the poll. But hey, if you're in the membership, Ray, Anita, you guys have already answered this question. So it's super cool that you guys are already sharing, but I would love to know from you. So I'll be keeping an eye on the comments. If you don't respond right away, no biggie, but I will be keeping an eye out to see if anybody has some more thoughts on their perfect world. Okay. Love this. All right. So let's see. Make sure I'm still on. Let's see here. Call in the purple window. All right, make sure I get back. All right. All right. So we have one more segment to finish with. We went an hour. I was gonna not going to go an hour, but well, we went an hour this time, so I guess it's okay. All right. So let me try this one more time. We'll go to our stinger and we'll go to our prescriptions. And our prescription today, as always, pretty much every single week, unless there's something special coming up, almost every week, we are telling you that our prescription is to go join the Creator Resource Center, which is where you will find our latest workshop. It is already up. Our Bible study, boost your Bible study skills from Wendy Coop. Again, man, like you're talking to someone who's, I think, I don't want to say she's getting her master's in theology. I think she's getting a master's more in writing. But when you see her walk down of the tools that will help you read your Bible, and I want to do a quick thing where I'm just going to do my AI rant here. You could go to ChatGPT and say, what are the best Bible study tools? You might get some great answers. It will synthesize and really give you the this is where I get really annoyed with AI. It will give you the average of all the best answers. It will give you the average answers. But if you want to talk to someone that's literally reading the Bible from cover to cover each week, has done a YouTube channel on Bible study to help Bible study for beginners, then ChatGPT is not going to be your best bet because you know what? Once again, it's going to take the average of the best answers it can find and just create like something that seems to work for you. Or you could go to our videos. And this is why I am not giving up on people watching videos and courses because I still think people are going to realize that AI may seem to give them all the right answers until they realize that they don't know where those answers come from and they don't know if it really has them in mind because they're just assuming they're training from a place of I'm asking the questions, but sometimes you don't know the questions to ask. If you're going out every single time doing searches on creative work, creative lifestyle, how do I solve this problem? And you're only asking the questions that you're aware of, well, then you're missing out. Whereas a person can give you a new perspective because they can talk to you and ask you the questions and give you a new perspective that you were not aware of. Whereas when you go to ChatGPT, you only ask the questions that you're aware of. So you can't ask a question that you're not aware of. And so you might even ask the ChatGPT, what questions should I ask? Well, that's because you don't know the questions to ask. So I'm going to always lean into the human HI intelligence versus the N and DI divine intelligence versus AI. Okay. So go check that out. You can also find this through going to the membership. But again, this is where you find our entire library of, including mentioning Lashonda once again, her workshop with me on podcasting. I think I have another one coming up. Lashonda, I owe you email to kind of lock that down. But we do have so many other workshops. I want to say at least 12 or 13. Plus, you get access to our community. Plus, you get access to all the amazing creators inside it. Okay. So that's our checkup for today. This was super good, super cool. We had some amazing friends come in. Again, I'm always going to be grateful for my beautiful wife who decided to jump in and also for our other viewers. Sometimes the viewers don't pop up, and sometimes you did not pop up in the screen or you didn't chat. Doesn't mean that we didn't appreciate you watching. And once again, this is something that is a love of both the community, a love of the creativity, and a love of our faith that we want to make sure is always front and center in our hearts, as well as oftentimes in our work. So, February 10th is that date. And so, yes, I will let you know. I got a little more information from our church so I could figure that out. But you guys can put that in your calendar for February 10th. Well, we'll get to share with LaShonda and make sure that we lock that down. We'll confirm it, but put like save the date and we'll make sure that we give you the time as soon as we get all that locked in. But I am a proud member of the Bootstrap Biz Advice community as well. We are dual citizens. A lot of us got in gigs and Bootstrap. LaShonda is a creator expert member of the 360 community. So there you go. We're all one big happy family, and I can't wait to share with that community. All right, my friends, I think that is it for now. So until next time, as we always say, God bless you and continue to become the creator that you were created to be. God bless, and we'll see you Tuesday for your episode that will be coming up. And then Friday will be our next creator checkup. God bless everybody.